Welcome to Progress with Parker Duque and Friends. I'm Parker Duque. This episode's going to be fantastic. This is going to be our Making Friends episode. I'll explain as we go. I was on Instagram a couple weeks ago, where the real science lives, the internet. And I find out in a reel there's a study that was done by Harvard or somebody that went to Harvard or whatever, somebody with credibility, and my mind's been blown ever since. Here's my thing. You figure out something that's so important, something that affects so many people, like literally everybody, and then you don't tell people? Call the news. I found out about this on Instagram. And to be clear, if you're I've said this before, if you're finding out about stuff from me, remember, I'm not here to judge, but I'll tell you as a friend, you should be concerned. I'm usually the last one to find out about stuff. Are you curious yet? They studied popular high school kids and their traits and being likable, and they figured all that out. They have all that figured out. It's fascinating. Turns out there are two kinds of popular. You and I know the one kind. But when I tell you about the second kind later, if you're like me, you'll be like, oh, that makes sense. It was all right there. I just didn't put it together or notice it. The study isn't just about being popular. It talks about the components of being popular, like being likable and making friends. And it's not what you would think. It's easier. We have the answers. They figured it out. It's crazy this isn't taught in school. Isn't this important? Friends are so important to everyone, to everyone's mental health. Is it taboo to talk about wanting more friends or making friends? Because growing up, I felt like it was. I never heard anybody talking about how to make friends or being likable or popular. That wasn't a cool thing to talk about. You were just supposed to have friends. And the popular kids were just popular. To me, it just seemed like a mystery. Because I didn't always agree with who should be popular. A mystery you had to live with. Sure, making friends is easy for some people, but so is juggling. For the rest of us, it's not easy. It wasn't easy for me, not in the start. Turns out it didn't have to be so hard. Are you kidding me? I watched all three of my kids navigate the rocky terrain of early friendships. I wasn't much help. I certainly remember being helpless or feeling helpless. I wanted to help, just didn't know how. I didn't know any of this stuff. And it was all right in front of me. Nobody told me. So, you can imagine my surprise when I discover they've got all this figured out. The mystery is gone. And I'm going to give it to you in one episode. And like I do, I'm going to dangerously oversimplify it for you. So buckle up. But first, you know by now, we start out every episode with a That's Great story. This one's about my dad. It's a perfect start to this episode. I grew up in my dad's hometown, Elgin, Illinois. He was a pretty good athlete in high school, and he went to college. He came back to Elgin to raise his own family. He's kind of a local boy does good type of situation there. And I don't think it would be inaccurate to say that Elgin had a hand in raising my dad, because my dad didn't have a dad. Well, he had a dad, but he was a complicated dad and he wasn't around. He had issues and he ended up checking himself into the Elgin Mental Hospital, which you can imagine was very embarrassing for Pop. I remember him telling me he knew the other kids knew why his dad wasn't at the games, and that stunk. But my dad's childhood was not sad. Despite the obvious bummers, Dad was a case study for a concept that he embedded in me. Life is what you make it. My grandma, we called her Nana, she raised all three kids by herself. She worked several jobs, hard jobs, lost most of her hearing in the process, and it was tough, but she was tougher, and she wasn't completely on her own, even though my grandpa was out of the picture. He had a big family, and they were gems. Blue collar. A big, tight, awesome family. You couldn't find a better crew, and they all had nicknames like Sis, Cook, Mouse, Duke. They called me Pickles when I was young because I didn't like pickles, which they couldn't comprehend. Thank God that didn't stick. That would have been interesting. Dad was the first one in the family to go to college. That's where he met my mom at the U of I. And my mom enjoys telling the story of her first Sunday dinner with Dad's family, how he picked her up and she was all dressed up. And he's like, "Why are you all dressed up?" And she's like, "It's Sunday dinner." And he goes, "Oh, well, my family's a little bit different. Just wait." My mom came from a very well-mannered family, and she said they had broken the trifecta of dinner table capital offenses within the first 30 minutes. They swore, belched, and farted at the Sunday dinner table. Aren't we proud? The first time they met my mom. And I guarantee you, because I ended up going to those Sunday dinners too, I guarantee you there was a couple of smokers at that table as well. They were big smokers, blue collar. A little bit crazy, but a lot of bit awesome. They were wonderful people and a great crew to have in your corner. So, moving on, if you can imagine, given those circumstances, Pop grew up with very little money. He had one set of clothes that he had to wash every night. He'd stay after class to scavenge for pens in the wastebaskets because he couldn't afford new ones. Heartbreaking stuff. Stuff that had a hand in making him pretty special and pretty tight. Dad knew the value of the dollar, which was interesting because he was also an incredibly generous man. He would literally give you the shirt off his back. But if you tried to pull a dollar out of that man's hands, good luck. When we first got our cabin up here in Michigan, we didn't have trash service. There was no seasonal pickup. The trash company made you pay for the whole year, whether you used the service or not. There was no way Dad was paying for that. So every time we came up here for the weekend, we'd save our gross trash, and at the end of the trip, we'd make it someone else's problem. We'd find someone else's dumpster and throw our trash in it. I don't know how he reconciled doing that. My dad was a good man. He never did anything wrong. But it was wrong. Even I knew it was wrong, and I was a little kid. I think his cheapness blinded him. It was amazing. To make matters worse, he figured out the easiest place to dump our garbage was the local church. A church. You know what day we'd go home? Sunday. You know what's still busy on a Sunday afternoon? Church. I remember begging Dad, can we just throw this away at home? And he wouldn't even consider it. He would just bark at us. Just throw it out. All right, Dad. All right. Now, when I drive by that church, I chuckle because they put a fence around their dumpster. And I feel like maybe I should reimburse them for the fence anonymously because I'm pretty sure my dad was the reason they put it up. A church. Do you think the guys putting that fence up were like, can you believe we have to do this? We have to put up a fence around the dumpster at a church? Who thinks it's okay to dump at a church? Dad was tight on that and a couple of other things, but his big thing was insurance. He hated paying car insurance, specifically for my brother and I. And both my brother and I loved driving fast. So it was a constant conflict for me because, like all teenagers, I wanted to speed, but I lived in fear of getting a speeding ticket and answering to Dad over the new insurance premium because I have seen that play out. My brother got a speeding ticket in South Dakota, of all places. That's probably a story for another episode. But, oh man, when Dad got the new bill, so things for me were great until they weren't. It had to happen eventually. I got a speeding ticket. I think I was a junior, maybe a senior in high school. That's where this story starts. I remember watching my father's blood pressure rise right in front of me when I told him about the ticket. Dad didn't yell, but his silent disappointment, he could crush a full-size truck in like under a minute. Dad was such a wonderful guy. You didn't ever want to disappoint him, ever. I would have preferred a beating, honestly. But he let me know in no uncertain terms what was expected to me. I was to admit to my mistake and apologize to the court and promise not to speed again. And I better hope that I get out of that ticket. Understood? And I remember looking at him and asked, is that possible? Can we get out of the ticket? And my dad looked at me and said, we? That's when he let me know he was also going to teach me a lesson. And that I would be going to court by myself. What? I didn't even know where the court was. Ripped from the teat. Well, anyway, this dark cloud followed me. Finally, my court date arrived. I found the courthouse. I got there on time. No idea what to expect. And as I was sitting down with this big group of mourning cases, in walks the judge. And I recognize her. Pretty lady, in a conservative, judgish, respectable kind of way. About my dad's age. Oh my goodness. It's Judge Jensen. Do I know all the judges in Elgin? Absolutely not. But I knew who Judge Jensen was because Judge Jensen has two beautiful daughters. They weren't just beautiful. They were ultra cool, very fashionable, very smart, very popular. I also knew Judge Jensen went to school with my dad. Just one catch. Judge Jensen's family, they were not blue collar. Now, if she was from the blue collar side of Elgin, I'd be home free. I'd be doodling cartoons instead of sweating buckets. I can't tell you how many things I got out of in Elgin because I was Raj's boy. Nope, she was not blue collar. There was a social order in Elgin at that time. I don't know if there's one now. But there were several prominent families in Elgin, and Judge Jensen was a part of that. They were Kennedy-esque. They were kind of like Elgin's version of the Kennedys, just way more attractive and no funny accents. What I'm trying to say is they were on the very opposite end of the social spectrum in relationship to our family, my dad's family. Their Sunday dinners were a little bit different than Pop's. Judge Jensen's dinner table has never seen a trifecta. And cell phones weren't around, so I couldn't call up Pop and say, hey, guess who's my judge? Do you know her? And then I got to thinking, wait, is this a bad thing or a worse thing? If he does know her, will he be embarrassed that I'm here in court? And then I'm like, it's a speeding ticket. It's not like I stole something or hurt someone. The real question was, did she know my dad? Were they friends? And if so, can I get some help here? Chances were no. But I had no idea. All of a sudden, I'm in a John Hughes film. Did Judge Jensen, the preppy, popular it girl, did she ever bond with my low-income, blue-collar athletic dad during a Sunday detention session in the school library? Because a Breakfast Club type situation was a long shot, but it was probably my only hope. There was quite a bit of distance between our families' social standing. Maybe they had gym class together. I don't know. Every connection I could make where they might have known each other in high school just seemed like a long shot, but I was drowning. I was drowned in thinking about going home to Dad with a speeding ticket. And she was a life raft that just came in through the side door. I was so dumb and so desperate. I was craning my neck to see if I could make some eye contact with her. Maybe she would recognize my dad and me. People used to tell me all the time how much I looked like my dad when he was young. I knew it was a long shot, but I was hoping she might somehow recognize me and I might have a shot at getting out of this. Nothing. She didn't look at me. She didn't notice me. I wasn't getting anything. She was all business, and you could tell she was good at business. She kept it moving. She wasn't too tough, but she wasn't soft. She's very direct. She seemed like the perfect judge until I started noticing nobody's getting out of their speeding tickets. So I'm dying. Because when my case came up, all business. No recognition of me or Pop or our last name. Cooked. I was cooked. I was out there on my own. Freaking. I was getting this ticket. And when it was my turn to speak, Zero finesse out of the gate. She asked me why I was speeding 15 miles per hour over the limit. So instead of answering the question, I apologized and said that it would never happen again. But you know what? That was the power of Raj. Raj was hanging over me. If that man tells you to sit down, you don't even look for a chair. He told me the first thing that comes out of your mouth better be an apology to the court. Done. And then she asked me again, kind of ignoring my apology. Why I was doing 15 over the limit. And I had an answer for her. I had two answers for her. But I blew it. And if we're being honest, I was still freaking. I just said homework. You can't understand how devastating that was. In preparing for this event, I had spent hours coming up with two absolute lies, which I thought were believable. I would just pick the better one in the moment. So dumb. The one I meant to use was that I was late to a study group and that I was vital to the study group. So dumb. And so dumb to think I could pull that off. I couldn't, obviously. I was flustered. I blew it. I just said homework. And Judge Jensen said, you were speeding because you wanted to go do homework? And guess who reached deep down and came up with a clutch response? I said, no. I was thinking about homework and not paying attention to how fast I was going. I will never let it happen again. Nailed it. But nothing. No reaction. And that's when I realized, oh, geez, I bet you she has heard everything. She sighed. She looked down and checked something on the papers in front of her. And then she looked at me. Like, straight at me. Still no emotion. Like how you would expect a judge to be looking at you right before they send you away to the hoosecow. And she said, well, since this is your first offense, I'm going to let you go with a warning. And the cop that gave me a ticket did a double take. He was standing up there with me. He wasn't expecting that either. I had given up. What? And then she went on to explain, if you keep your promise for 6 months, it'll fall off your record. I felt like I was going to cry. I cry easy. And I remember my voice cracked when I said, thank you, Your Honor. And I went and sat back down. And let me tell you what, I was breaking my arm, patting myself on the back. I was thinking, oh my gosh, pretty smooth move on my part. My on-the-fly response, that is what you call clutch. Mind you, I was completely ignoring how badly I had done prior. And I remember really feeling full of myself. I had just finessed myself out of this ticket. Like, who knows what else I could get out of. Like, this was just a start. If I could kind of channel this unknown clutch superpower, well, I was shook from my daydreaming, by the bailiff. He's announcing the end of our court session. We were dismissed. And then I hear, "Will Mr. Wagner please approach the bench?" My heart sank. It was Judge Jensen. Did she change her mind? I thought I was being respectful. I thought with my celebration, I was trying to keep it to myself. But honestly, the weight of the world, or Raj, take your pick, had just been lifted from my chest. What am I supposed to do? Was I smiling too much? Had she changed her mind? Because I was over there smiling ear to ear, probably like a jackass. I thought I was toast. I walked up to the side of her bench, scared out of my mind. Her bench is elevated. She leans down, gives me the nicest smile, totally unexpected. And she says, "Tell your father I said hello." Turns out Dad was friends with everybody. We'll come back to that. Isn't that great? That's a great primer for our Making Friends episode. But right now, I'm going to do another really important public service announcement. Unfortunately, it has to be done. Thankfully, it will be quick because it's really simple. And this is one that everybody needs to know. And I say everybody because maybe only half of all people understand this. And right now, we're putting up with the other half that doesn't. What am I talking about? It's simple. Here it goes. When you do something embarrassing, you have to be able to laugh at yourself. Laugh at yourself. Own it. Own it and laugh at yourself. Nobody is cool 100% of the time. It's fine if you want to be cool 100% of the time, but nobody is. So when you do something embarrassing, laugh at yourself for your benefit, for our benefit. Everyone's better off. And you will be amazed at how easy your life is when you let go of trying to be cool 100% of the time. The example I use with my kids is this. Let's say you're running in front of your gym class and you fall on your face. The entire class is laughing at you when you get up. Why? Well, because it's funny when somebody falls on their face. I mean, as long as they don't die. It's funny when things go in an unexpected direction, isn't it? It is. There are two reaction options you can have after you fall on your face. Option one, when you get up, you can laugh at yourself and you can laugh with your friends over what just happened. Own it. You can still be horrified on the inside. That's a natural reaction, but then let it go. It will disappear the minute you start laughing. Trust me. I've done a lot of embarrassing things. This is kind of my area. And maybe say something like about your face plant, like, that was pretty good form, wasn't it? I don't know. Joke about it. Joking about your embarrassing thing is owning it with a fun twist, right? Okay. Now, option 2, you can be a clown. You can get up and keep trying to act cool. Go ahead and get upset that some of your friends are laughing at you. How dare they? I thought they were your friends. You can try to blame the fall on something else, like the turf. Maybe huff and puff around for a little bit. Make things socially awkward for everybody because you're upset that you made a mistake. Just listening to these 2 options, isn't it easy? You would think it is. You'd think it's a no-brainer. Option 1, way better than option 2. Laugh at yourself. Own your own mistakes. It's not as big a deal as you think it is. And you're driving the rest of us nuts. Why does this come up? Well, people, when I talk about being lucky in life, oh my gosh, I am, top to bottom. Family, friends, Michigan. That is the yin of my life. I have so much yin, incredible yin. But before you go getting jelly on me, let me just tell you right now, there is some yang. For the yin, there's some yang. Lots of yang, actually. For instance, college football is my favorite sport. Give me a college football Saturday, crisp weather, gather my people, eat some delicious snacks. Nothing better. Here's the rub. As you know by now, I went to Purdue. Purdue is my team. That's the yang. We've had our bright spot. Thank you, Drew Brees. But for the most part, absolute college football misery. Why on earth am I bringing this up? Well, we, Purdue, just hired a new athletic director. And his press conference just made the national news circuit when it shouldn't have. He delivered this zinger, or something close. He said, "We're here to win championships at Purdue. If you don't like that, go to Indiana." Like we haven't been embarrassed enough already. That's the dumbest thing you could have possibly said. And we will surely be punished for your stupidity. Indiana obviously just won the national championship last year, and they've beaten Purdue in their last 2 games under Cignetti by a collective score of about 8-3. We kicked a field goal. In the last 2 games against them, we kicked a field goal. There's an interview out there where a reporter tells Cignetti he's beat Purdue 8-3 in the last 2 games. And Cignetti said, "Would you repeat that?" And the guy says, 8-3 in the last 2 games. In the first game, you scored 5 billion. And Cignetti interrupts him. He says, yeah, I know. I just wanted to hear that again. Now, this year, just watch. What do you think he's going to do now? He's going to hang 100 on Purdue. I bet you he sets a new slaughter record for the Big Ten. We're going to be on the wrong side of another record. So now, what does this athletic director, what does he do? If he listened to my public service announcement, he would have laughed at himself and he would have took ownership. Did he do that? No. Nope. He was getting there. He was getting us out of the jam, and then he stopped short. Just couldn't help himself. He went on Pat McAfee, who I think was spoon-feeding him. Pat, you are a nice guy. Thank you. I think Pat McAfee felt so bad for this clown. He was actually trying to help him. It was like he was pushing him there. Well, this clown, he admitted to being nervous and going off script. But that was it. But then he said his one-liner, it didn't land well. Then followed it up immediately with a, but remember. Then he pulled out a golf analogy. What? I guess he wanted to make it relatable. He said he hit his tee shot into the lake, but figures he has 18 more holes to play. Give me a break. Dude, your ball's in the water. And you're just announcing to us you have 18 more holes to play? No. What an absolute moron. He's still trying to be cool. Are you going to be there with us to watch IU hang 100 points on Purdue this year from your golf course? Get off my course. No. Do people need to be hiring me for this stuff? Apparently. I'll tell you exactly what he needed to say. And if he wants to keep it simple, I'll keep it simple for you, Mr. Golf Pro. He needed to go on Pat McAfee and say, thanks for having me, Pat. Purdue Nation, I have good news and bad news. Bad news first. The bad news is I delivered one of the dumbest one-liners in press conference history. I want to apologize for any embarrassment that I may have caused you because of that. I blew it. I don't enjoy doing press conferences. I was nervous about this one, and I blew it. I was excited about what we were going to do here at Purdue, and I was excited to be part of this program. I was feeling it a little bit, and I went off script with nothing prepared. And you saw how that turned out. And even though we're state rivals, I have no problem congratulating Coach Signetti on last year's national championship and arguably one of the greatest turnarounds in the history of sports. We look forward to competing against you. Again, Purdue Nation, I am sorry for any embarrassment that I have caused you. I will get better at press conferences. The good news is I'm here to be athletic director, not to do press conferences. And that's it. Walk away. Walk away, fool. The yang guys, the yang will bring you down. Okay, let's talk about this study. Like I said, I can't believe they have such important things figured out and they aren't telling people. I hope they're sharing this stuff with kids. I'm talking about a study they did on popular high school students, and in this study, they figured everything out. And it's fascinating how intuitive the results are. It's especially considering what a mystery all this stuff was for me growing up. The whole time I read it, I was like, oh, Because it's so easy and it makes total sense. I think you'll agree. Let me explain. So, like I said earlier, there are two types of popular. The kind we already know, where the person has done something to differentiate themselves from the rest of us, something significant, like a quarterback, the quarterback of a varsity football program. Wherever he goes, he gets special treatment, right? And he earned it. There's only one starting QB. Obviously, that kind of popular, super hard to achieve. That's not the easy way to get special treatment wherever you go. And let's be clear here about one thing. There is nothing better than special treatment, right? I'm talking about something as small as a warm greeting or someone knowing your order when you walk up, or extra meat in your sandwich, or something huge like a free dinner for you and your family. Special treatment. Well, I'm going to hook you up. Now, I can't promise anything, but I'm going to try. I'm going to try to show you how to get some special treatment, or at least how I have. Just stick with me. Because there's another kind of popular, one that goes under the radar, and anybody can achieve it. You can be regular like me. You don't even have to throw a football or do anything super special. In this study, that's why it's so great. In this study of popular high school kids, the research found that it wasn't what we thought. You know, the traits like wealth and status, attractiveness, like athletic ability, humor, stuff like that. It wasn't those traits that determined the most popular high school students. The most popular high school students simply liked the most other people. They called them first likers. They actively initiate warmth, like smiling or greeting others in the hallway, and that naturally encourages people to like them back. Yeah. They went into a bunch of high schools, and they had all the kids write down everybody they liked on a list. They took all the lists, and all the people that received the most mentions were determined to be the most popular, the most liked. Interestingly enough, if you look at the most popular kids' lists, they had the longest lists of names. They liked the most people. Doesn't that make sense now? Isn't that fascinating? Did you think of certain classmates from your high school days when I described a first liker? I did. Two kinds of popular. One of them's easy. Honestly, who's to say if one kind of popular is better than the other? But if you did ask me and forced me to answer, I'm a practical guy. I'd say the one that takes less work. I'd say the one that takes less work is better than the one that takes more work. Wouldn't you agree? And I hope you're sitting down, because this next nugget, because it's the most important part. You don't have to be born likable to be likable. Yeah. The study goes on to say likability it's not just an innate trait, a trait you're born with, but an active habit of looking for positive qualities in other people. What a novel concept. Hey, you look fantastic in those pants. Or, hey, that raccoon story was funny. I loved it. Isn't that incredible? And you know what? That's my dad. My dad was a first liker. He talked to everybody. It drove us nuts. There wasn't an errand we ran where my dad didn't stop and talk to somebody for like 5 hours, which could be annoying when you're a really busy, really important 11-year-old, right? To this day, anytime I see Michelob beer, I always think of my dad running into, surprising one of his buddies in a grocery store, asking him, hey, is this Michelob? Is this any good? And then both of them laughing, which I thought laughing too hard. It turns out I was wrong. You can't laugh too hard. My dad enjoyed people, and I think that he passed that on to me, or at least he made it weird not to talk to strangers. To where I'm lucky enough to be kind of in the same spot as Pop. My family makes fun of me for being a creature of habit and always going to the same places, and I don't correct them because I kind of am. There are definitely places I go to in my neighborhood on the regular. We've discussed them before. Chevron for morning snacks, CVS for night snacks, Moe's and Joe's for beer and delicious snacks and trivia. What else? Doc Shay's for delicious noodles, Whiskey Bird for delicious Peruvian chicken tacos. What else? Taqueria del Sol for the best Mexican in Atlanta. Oh, Woody's cheesesteaks. Whenever I can. That's about all I need in my neighborhood. You know the main reason I go to those places over and over and over again? Because I get special treatment. If you want to get technical, I wouldn't say they're my friends, but they're definitely more than acquaintances. In fact, I just got bummed out a little bit when I said that they weren't my friends. They're probably somewhere in between, but I'm just going to call them my friends. I have them at all my regular stops. And you know what? You know what you get when you have friends that work at all your favorite places? That's right. Special treatment wherever you go. You can do it too. And all you got to do is just start saying hi. That's all I did. When I went to Woody's, best cheesesteaks in Atlanta, I get extra meat on my cheesesteak without paying for it. They always hook me up. It didn't happen right away. I kept seeing the same employees, so I said, hey. And they said, hey, back. And then after a year of haze, I started noticing some pretty heavy sandwiches coming my way. Our favorite Mexican place here in Atlanta, Taqueria del Sol, they count my family's dinner every Christmas season because we're regulars without being asked. It's always a wonderful surprise when he says, we've got it. Moe's and Joe's. Oh, I'll tell you a story. There's a group that owns Moe's and Joe's. And I've become friends. I've gotten to know one of the owners. That's my bar. Moe's and Joe's is my neighborhood bar. One time I was there with a couple of buddies, and the owner was there. And he said, hey, let me bring you a pitcher of beer. What do you want? And I said, hey, awesome. Pabst Blue Ribbon. He said, I'll be right back. And then my buddy Dana came in, and he didn't see any of this interaction. And he just comes and sits down, and then the owner brings a free pitcher back and sets it on the table. And Dana looks up at him, and he's like, Oh, thanks. Can you bring me a glass too? To the owner of the bar that just brought a free pitcher. Fantastic. I could go on and on, but it would get obnoxious if it already has. I have long-term friends because I just started saying, hey, to people. I stopped by the Chevron just the other day, and the manager, Nur, he's probably been there 20 years. He asked me about all three of my kids. In that same gas station, I saw my buddy JB. I've known a regular there. I've known JB for probably 30 years. Who is JB? Well, JB is the guitarist for Cool Joe and the Funky Soul Cymbals. And if you didn't know, they tore up Star Search with Ed McMahon in the 1990s. How else would I get to know JB? Just through me buying night snacks at our local CVS, I've become friendly with 2 transgender women. Never expected that to happen, but it did. Do you know how hard that was, becoming friends with a transgender woman? It wasn't. It wasn't. All you have to do is treat them like a human being, and they will love you. Be kind. It's easy. One of them was a joy, always in a great mood, and let me tell you something. She was my kind of girl. You know why? Because she would rather die than see me wait in line, which was fine by me. If she saw me wait, she was kind of the manager, and if she saw me waiting, she'd open up a register, kind of wave me in out of line. Fantastic. She knew everyone that walked in the door. She was as sweet as the day is long, and all she wanted from people was to be treated like a woman. Happy to do it. Not hard. She got promoted, and I haven't seen her in a long time. The other one, oh gosh, not so simple. Super messy, socially awkward. I learned so much through her. I watched her struggle in real time, and she shared stuff with me. Gut-wrenching stuff. Sometimes real tough stuff. Definitely way more than I think CVS would have liked her to share with me. Stuff I won't share with you guys because it's a family program. But I will tell you what, even though a lot of that stuff was heartbreaking, she was a real person, a complicated, real person, and I am rich with perspective for knowing her. She's since moved on to Whole Foods now. I still say hi to her. She's doing 100% better, and she is going to be treated a lot better at the Whole Foods rather than an in-town CVS. Where am I going with all this? If you want to make more friends or more acquaintances, whatever you want to call them, if you want to make your life richer, you can do it. Mine is. I'm proof. I'm proof of how easy it is. You know? I'm not rich, but when I'm in my neighborhood, yeah, I'm rich. I get special treatment wherever I go. Just start saying hi to people at the places you go to on the regular. And when you recognize somebody a second time, say hello again. How are you today? And before long, you might have a friend where you can say, hey, you got anything planned this weekend? And if they want to share with you, they'll share with you. And if they don't, they won't. You'll know who's in play before long. And people will surprise you. There are some very interesting people out there. All right, let's say you don't care about special treatment, gasp, and being popular. Let's just say you want to meet more friends. They figured that out too. You want to make more friends? Join a group. Yeah. What group? I don't know. What are your interests? Are you interested in something like photography? Because a group doesn't have to be a group. It can be a class. It just needs to be a group of people. So using our example, let's say you go to a photography class. Those people are interested in photography too, right? So you've already got one thing in common. Boom, start with that. Is that not incredible? It makes so much sense. Looking back, that's how I made all my friends. Groups. The idea is to take a giant population like the world and reduce it to a manageable small group like a photography class. That's where connection takes place. And we already know how to be likable, don't we? Maybe you could smile at someone and say, "Nice camera." And don't be discouraged if you don't make friends right away. It's a process. Listen, there's nothing better than making a fast friend. Does it happen a lot? No. Count your lucky stars when that happens. Join a group. Be a first liker. Be kind. See what happens. And this is important. Being a first liker doesn't mean being a brown noser. I feel like I have to probably qualify that. We don't need more of those. It can, like I said, it can be as simple as a wave or a hello. Or if you insist on giving compliments, which is a wonderful thing, but it's important that you give them right. And otherwise, you're just going to be a brown noser. That's not helping anybody. Here's the thing. This is a Dale Carnegie thing. Your compliments have to be earnest. You have to believe the compliment you're giving. So find something that you like in the other person and then compliment them on that. Don't overthink it. Kiss. Keep it simple, stupid. A lot of wisdom in that. All right. I figure all the popular people have probably left us by now because they probably know all this stuff. But let's keep going. I got one more. I got one last thing. It's about holding a conversation, about being a conversationalist. Another thing they figured out a long time ago, I read it in a reader's guide, or I think actually in a magazine at my dermatologist's office, a girls' magazine. It was about holding a conversation, but it's perfect for this episode. And when I read it, I was like, oh my gosh. And I immediately went home and told my kids because it simplifies things. And I thought that they could use it, but they looked at me like, really? Duh. But they didn't know. They do now. What am I talking about? Contrary to the popular belief, or at least what I thought, you don't have to be a chatty Cathy, like somebody we know, to hold a conversation. When you think of a conversationalist, I always thought of a chatty Cathy's. Not necessarily true. You know what a conversation also needs? Somebody to listen. So if you can ask a question and listen, you're going to be set. Most people like talking about themselves anyway. Look at me. Jeez. So if you're shy, maybe reconsider things. Maybe you're an exceptional conversationalist and you just don't know it. Maybe you've been sweating yourself with the wrong side of the conversation. Maybe you should focus on asking questions and listening instead. It's a lot easier than becoming a chatty Cathy. What questions do you ask? Well, that's what the article was about. Mostly about. What words do questions start with? What, where, how, who, do. When you think about that, it's so easy. Start with those. What's your name? Where do you live? Where do you work? How long have you worked there? Who is your boss? Do you do anything fun on the weekends? And then let them answer. You don't have to do any of the talking. I don't know. All this stuff, when you look at it, seems basic. But nobody told me, and I'm not embarrassed to say I could have used it. So now that they got it figured out, I felt, what the heck? The least I could do, pass it on. And I hope this helps somebody, or at least has been entertaining. Look at us. This is just a do-good TV show. I'm calling it a TV show from now on. BTW. Well, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please spread the word about my little TV show here. I could use your help. I'm learning this racket. Oh, and this is what you need to do if you want. Can you hit the subscribe button below and then hit the thumbs up button while you're at it? And then if you're feeling bold and you really want to help your boy out, you can share this. Do the arrow thing. You can share this with your social media, your people. I told you I'd figure this out eventually. If you want to share it with your people, love that. You know what you can't stop? Progress.